I never set out to change a life, I was just there to scrub marble and keep quiet. But the first time I heard Noah ask his father, "Dad, what color is the lake today?" my hand stopped on the banister, and my heart did that old jump. You get when a child reaches in the dark for something true, and in that moment I knew I couldn't pretend I didn't hear him. You know what I mean? Because there he was 9 years old, in a house so shiny, it made you whisper. And there was Grant, in his glass office voice flat as a spreadsheet, telling his boy not to interrupt while he sold another dream to someone with money to burn. My name is Evelyn Carter, 63, Harbor Oaks, Michigan, and I come from a line of women who fix what they can with patience and plants. I walk soft, listen close, and if I've learned anything, it's that lonely is a sickness that doesn't respond to fancy words. So when Noah tilted his face toward me and said, "It smells like lemons when you pass by," I smiled before my mind could talk me out of it and told him that lemon is yellow, and yellow feels like somebody telling the truth. Grant didn't love that. Of course he didn't. Professionals handle care. He told me structure and protocols, please do your job, leave the rest to people with credentials. And I said, yes, sir, because a paycheck is still a roof. But that night, I stood in the staff room with my small glass jar wrapped in a towel, a color like tea, if the sun had kissed it, and I thought of Grandma B, who taught me how to make a salve for tired eyes and stubborn swellings, calendula for tenderness, chamomile to coax calm, a breath of citrus to wake what's sleeping, beeswax to hold it all together. Nothing magic, nothing dangerous. Just years of care written in the hands that raised me. And I prayed, the kind of prayer that sounds like a mother's apology and a grandmother's courage stitched together. I knocked on Noah's door and asked if I could sit. A spell he reached for my hand, like we were kin. In another life, I told him we were going to look for light on the inside first. Weird. He giggled, and I said, sometimes weird is where the good things hide. Close your eyes and breathe with me. Slow, like a clock that forgot it was late in and out. And then tell me what you notice. And he went still and whispered, there's a spark like the dots you see when you squeeze your eyes tight, but warm. And I swear to you, I felt my chest crack open like a window in spring. We made a ritual out of that quiet, a touch of salve at the corners. Stories about colors you can taste. Orange is mischief. Green is patience, blue is what your chest does when somebody forgives you. And while nothing dramatic happened at first, the house began to change its mind about this boy. He moved with more steadiness, found doorways without bruising. His shoulders traced sunlight as it walked across rugs. The doctor grunted, interesting in the exam room, and called it engagement, with a new protocol, and Grant took that word home like a trophy, scheduled a press thing, in the grand room with a string quartet, talked innovation, while Noah, bless him, kept turning his face toward me because children know where they're seen even when cameras don't. The twist, the moment the floor shifted, came on a Thursday that still lives in my bones. I had tucked a patch of red bee balm by the back path, because red is a loud teacher, and I figured color should introduce itself proudly. That morning, Noah flew down the stairs and said, Ms. Evelyn, the red is louder today. The flowers by the walkway. They're red right, and I froze with a towel in my hands, because there it was, not a theory or a trend or a press release, but a boy pointing at the world and claiming it, and just then Grant leaned out of the office. What is going on? And Noah, sweet thing, beamed right at the window and said the ones Ms. Evelyn planted, and you could see the blood leave his father's face like a tide in a hurry. I put my notebook on the counter, pages of dates and little victories. January 9th. Shadow in West Hallway. January 15th. Tracked lamp glow. January 24th. Recognized my silhouette 6 feet out. February 2nd. pointed to the bluest patch of sky and called it calm. And when I said it's progress and proof, sir, he slammed it shut and asked if I'd been applying substances to his son without authorization. Like I was smuggling poison in a church purse, and I told him the truth. A family salve for comfort. A tiny amount, careful as prayer. And most of all, I sat with him so he wasn't alone with the dark. And that last part, the alone with the dark, hit him harder than my recipe ever could, because he knew deep down that he'd outsourced comfort to specialists and screens. He fired me on the spot, or tried to, but Noah's voice cut the air clean. Dad, no. She helps me see she made me believe I could. And the kitchen went so quiet. The refrigerator hum sounded like a sermon. And I said, respectful but steady, you can fire me, that's your right. But you can't unsee what he sees, and you can't shrink the truth because it didn't come from a lab you sponsor. And then his phone buzzed with a call from Public Affairs. A reporter had connected the timeline photos and notes, and the way that boy turned toward me at the press event. They wanted comment by noon, and Grant sat down like the room had tipped, asked if I went to the press, and I told him the truth. Has neighbors, it talks on porches and travels through kitchens. Yeah, that happened. The house filled with the noise of other people's opinions, investors wanting a clean narrative, doctors stepping back. Blogs boiling a complicated thing down to a headline, some folks calling me a miracle worker, others calling me reckless. Both missing the point, which is that presence is medicine too, that a steady hand and time can hold a child in place until courage catches up. I packed my bag at sunset, hugged Noah while he cried the way kids cry when they figure out grown-ups can't fix everything. Told him I wasn't leaving him. Just this house told him the light was already walking with him, and he asked if light was a person, and I said sometimes it wears an old lady's shoes and keeps pace beside you until you can run. The months that followed were mean and kind in equal measure. Grant's public life sprung leaks. Shame is a terrible architect, and the internet is a hungry judge, but he kept showing up where it mattered, and I kept saying the same thing to any camera that came near. I didn't cure that boy. I sat with him and kept showing up. I used something gentle and paid attention. Also, please talk to your doctors and use common sense, because the last thing I ever wanted was to be a weapon in anyone's fight about whose knowledge counts. Then, one rainy afternoon, he walked into the little garden behind our clinic. No umbrella clothes, already soaked, and he stood between basil and marigold, holding a red bee balm blossom, like a peace offering. He wasn't sure how to give, he said. I want to say thank you, and the I'm sorry stuck in his throat, and I told him, don't give me what you owe him. And right then, Noah came tearing through the rain with that loose puppy run, taller now. Voice bright, Miss Evelyn. The storm is coming in stripes from the west, and we laughed in the downpour, because sometimes the world lets the past and the future shake hands like that. Now here's the part where you and I might disagree, and that's fine. Pull your chair closer. Was I right to do what I did? Or reckless should someone like me stay quiet because rules keep the gears turning? Or speak up because silence is its own harm? Do we only trust old knowledge after it passes a lab test? Or do we make room at the table for the ways communities teach themselves to care when the system hangs up? And before you answer, remember, this is a story about a boy who found red for himself, and a father who learned that humility can frame a better house, and a woman who believed presence could be medicine, even when it wasn't on the form. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. Hit subscribe. If this kind of truth-telling makes your chest feel like blue, drop a comment and tell me where you stand. Tell me if you think I crossed a line or held one. Tell me about the time you were underestimated and what cracked open when you kept showing up. And answer me this plain: if your child was alone with the dark, Who would you want sitting beside them? A stranger with a presentation, or a neighbor with a steady hand? And time, I'm listening.